Hello and welcome back to ALECtv, here from the States and Nation Policy Summit here in San Diego, California. Joining me now is Jose Ramos, who serves with the Wounded Warrior Project, joining us today to talk about the Wounded Warrior Project in person. Thank you so much, Jose, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what brings you and the Wounded Warrior Project here to the States and Nation Policy Summit in San Diego?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were invited once to recognize the great work that Wounded Warrior Project does. It's two, we wanted to ensure that state legislators across the country understood what programs we offer for veterans, specifically to ensure that when they have a veteran in need, they know who to contact, because Wounded Warrior Project is committed to serving all post 9/11 wounded, ill, and injured service members. And then thirdly is to discuss and talk a little bit about state policy that legislators can look at that would positively impact the lives of veterans in their particular states.
Absolutely. Thinking about how when I was young, we entered into the war in Afghanistan. Most of my life as we've seen the United States involved in a war. And so now as both these wars have concluded, for the first time we're kind of no longer in a major conflict, the issue of veterans and providing care for them is so important. What are some of the main challenges we're seeing right now that the Wounded Warrior Project has recognized and is trying to address that deserve more attention?
That's a great question. Well, at the federal level, our biggest priorities really are focused around toxic exposures and dealing with the illnesses associated with exposures of toxicants while in service. We're hyper-focused on ensuring that women veterans, the largest growing population of veterans, has adequate services and treatment and access to care across the country. The VA is a great system, but it was built, quite frankly, primarily for a male population, and we're working to ensure that they can meet the female warriors' needs. Mental health is also a priority for Wounded Warrior Project. You talk a little bit about the start of the war in Afghanistan and the wars in Iraq. With the conclusion and with the withdrawal, what we've seen, and quite frankly with COVID, we've seen an uptick in mental health need. So mental health has always been a priority for Wounded Warrior Project, one of the programs we invest in more. And then obviously at the state level, we look at things like, for example, the ability for psychologists to practice across state lines to address some of those shortages of mental health providers, recertification or certifications or reciprocity of certifications that service members get while in service or that spouses get while they're moving from states to state or transitioning out of the military, so that there isn't an employment barrier for them when they go into a new state. And those are the things that we're looking at addressing. And then lastly, Wounded Warrior Project, one of our programs that I think is one of the most impactful programs is our independence program, and that helps those who are severely injured with polytrauma type of or very significant illnesses. So long-term care and traumatic brain injury challenges are those that we focus on as well.
I think oftentimes in America we think about those who serve our country, the noble sacrifice they give, and it's not just them devoting their time there. They're effectively giving up a life at home. They're interrupting their careers, their daily domestic, 9 till 5 jobs, and going to serve. Then coming back is not just simply you flip a switch. So when it comes to these challenges, when it comes to the issue of veterans re-entering the workforce with the scars of war, with the traumas of battle, with the time they've lost from being at home, what are some ways that state lawmakers watching on right now, or even local communities, honest, salty with folks, what can they do to get involved?
That's a great question. I think the first thing to do is get to know veterans, right? We have a lot to contribute, right? Understanding that, veterans sometimes have different challenges, but at the same time, we as a society have challenges that we deal with, right? So be supportive. Two, I think that the first year of separation is probably a year where there's a lot of anxiety. We're transitioning from a very unique culture, a lot of us with experience overseas, and going back into just regular, what we call civilian life, is a stressful transition, right? So ensuring that, for example, some of those policies that I talked about for certifications of licensing, right? Ensuring that we're setting them for success back home, that there's employment opportunities, that they recognize their military service as part of employment history, and the things that they learn while in service and how they translate. And then obviously, like I said, just get involved, get supportive, and don't be afraid of talking to veterans.
There's no better act of love, of sacrifice, but also better credential in serving your country. So we got to be there for them. Any last things you want to tell our listeners on ALECtv about the Wounded Warrior Project and work you guys do?
Yeah, no, so first and foremost, I appreciate being able to come here and talk with you today. I'd like to just say, take time to learn a little bit about Wounded Warrior Project, right? Visit woundedwarriorproject.org. More importantly, if you have or run across a veteran in need, don't ever hesitate to reach out to Wounded Warrior Project. That's what we're here for. Our commitment is to honor and empower those who have served, and we will always stand by their side. And if you run across somebody who needs services, have them call 1-888-WWP-TALK. That's our Wounded Warrior Project Resource Center. We'll have someone there from 8 to 8 ready to answer their call.
That's awesome. Well, Jose, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for tuning to ALECtv. Be sure to stay tuned for more content here from San Diego and the States and Nations Policy Summit.